The amazing Airbnb story. From zero to billions, a true story that will change your life. If you watch this story until the end, you will learn the secret of never giving up. You will discover how three broke friends changed the world. And you will understand why this story can change your life. Part 1. Three friends with no money. Tell you the most amazing business story ever. This story is 100% real. It's about three friends who had no money. They could not pay their rent. But today, their company is worth more than $100 billion. Millions of people use their service every day. This is the story of Airbnb. Wait, don't skip ahead. The best part is coming. You need to hear how they almost failed 1,000 times before they became rich. The beginning minus 2007 and 2007. Two friends lived in San Francisco. Their names were Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia. They were both 26 years old. They had big dreams, but no. Money. Their rent was $1,150 every month, but they had no jobs. They had no savings. They were broke. One day they heard about a big design conference in their city. All the hotels were full. People needed places to stay. Joe had a crazy idea. He said to Brian, "What if we rent our living room? We don't have beds, but we have 3 air mattresses." Brian thought Joe was crazy. Air mattresses? Who will pay for that? Joe smiled. "Let's try. We can give them breakfast too." Air bed and breakfast. They were desperate. They had no other choice. So they made a simple website. They wrote, "Stay with locals. Sleep on an air bed. Get homemade breakfast." Here comes the shocking part that nobody expected. People booked their air mattresses. One woman from Boston. One man from Utah. One artist from India. That weekend, they made $240. It wasn't much money, but it felt like magic. Strangers paid money to sleep in their living room. But when the conference ended, nobody else booked. Their website was empty again. Brian and Joe realized something important. This could work, but we need to make it bigger. Building the real business. They called their friend Nathan Butcherchick. Nathan was a computer programmer. He was very smart with technology. The three friends decided to work together. They wanted to build a website where anyone could rent out their home to travelers. They called their idea Airbnb.com, short for Airbed and Breakfast. They worked day and night. They built the website. They added photos. They made it look professional, but there was one big problem. Nobody used it. 0 customers. 0 bookings. 0 money coming in. They were getting deeper in debt. They owed $25,000 on credit cards. They ate cheap cereal and peanut butter every day because they had no money for real food. But wait, you won't believe what happened next. This is where the story gets really crazy. The cereal box idea was 2008. Barack Obama was running for president against John McCain. Joe had another wild idea. He designed special cereal boxes. Obama O's and Captain McCain's. They filled the boxes with cheap cereal and sold them for $40 each to political fans. People loved it. They made $30,000 from cereal boxes. This money saved Airbnb from dying, but they still had no real customers using their website. The hardest part was just beginning. Get ready for the most painful part of their journey. 1,000. Rejections. Now they needed money from investors to grow their business. They went to rich people in Silicon Valley who invest in new companies. They were rejected over and over and over again. More than 1,000 times, people said no. Investors said things like, "Nobody will sleep in a stranger's house. This idea will never work. This is too dangerous. This is the worst idea I ever heard." Brian, Joe, and Nathan were tired. They were broke. They were embarrassed. But deep inside, they still believed in their idea. Brian said, "If we can survive this, we can change the world." Just when they were about to give up forever, something amazing happened. Part 2. The big breaky Combinator. The chance they needed. A friend told them about Y Combinator. Y Combinator helps small startups become big companies. They had helped companies like Dropbox and Reddit become successful. Brian, Joe, and Nathan applied. Y Combinator called them for an interview. Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, listened to their idea. He looked confused at first. People are really sleeping in strangers' homes? Paul asked. Yes, Joe replied. And they love it, Paul smiled. It's weird, it's crazy, but it might work. Airbnb was accepted. They got $20,000 to help build their company. It wasn't much money, but it gave them hope. This is where everything started to change. But the real breakthrough was still coming. Going door to door from January to March 2009. The Airbnb team worked inside Y Combinator. They had 3 months to prove their idea could work. They decided to focus on just one city, New York. Brian and Joe flew to New York with almost no money. They did something that most tech companies never do. They went door to door. They met every Airbnb host in person. They took professional photos of people's homes. They sat with hosts and taught them how to write good descriptions. They showed them how to make guests feel welcome. This wasn't just about technology. This was about people helping people. And it worked. Hosts felt supported. Guests saw better listings. Bookings slowly started increasing. They went from 5 bookings per week to 20, then to 100. The moment that changed everything was about to happen. The big presentation. March 2009, Y Combinator had demo day. This is when all the new companies present their ideas to investors. Airbnb showed their growing numbers. They showed real stories from New York. They shared their vision. One day, people will travel the world not by staying in hotels, but by staying with local people. Some investors were still unsure, but a few believed. They raised $600,000. Then a journalist from TechCrunch wrote an article about Airbnb. The article went viral. Suddenly, everyone was talking about Airbnb. Now the real adventure begins. Watch. What happens when they go global. Part 3. Building a global empire growing around the world. Between 2011 and 2013, Airbnb expanded to more than 190 countries. In just a few years, they became one of the fastest growing travel companies in the world. They had over 500,000 listings, 33,000 cities, 192 countries. They opened offices in Paris, London, Berlin, Sydney, Sao Paulo, and Beijing. They hired people who understood local cultures and languages. This was no longer 3 guys in an apartment. This was now a big company with hundreds of employees and millions of users, but success brought new problems. Big problems that almost destroyed everything. Fighting cities and governments as Airbnb grew bigger. Governments around the world started to worry. Cities said, are these homes or hotels? Who is paying taxes? What about safety rules? This isn't fair to hotels. Cities like New York, Paris, Barcelona, and Tokyo created strict rules. Some places even banned Airbnb completely. Hotel companies got angry. They said Airbnb is stealing our customers. They spent millions of dollars trying to stop Airbnb. Airbnb could have fought back with anger. Instead, they used smart strategy. They hired lawyers to work with governments. They created tax agreements to help cities make money. Made new safety programs. They said, we don't want to break laws. We want to work with cities. This approach worked. Instead of being banned everywhere, Airbnb was accepted in most places with new rules. The secret weapon that made them unstoppable was something no one expected. The power of community. Airbnb's most powerful weapon wasn't technology or money. It was their community. They organized meets with hosts. They created workshops in neighborhoods. They shared success stories on YouTube and social media. They showed the world Airbnb helps normal people make money. Single mothers earning money from their spare room, retired couples making friends with travelers, students, paying for college by hosting guest families surviving tough times with extra income. This emotional connection became the heart of their brand. People weren't just using a website, they were joining a movement. Airbnb launched a new mission. Belong anywhere. By now, investors were starting to notice something big. becoming worth billions with millions of users around the world and a strong brand. Investors saw that Airbnb was the future of travel. From 2013 to 2015, Airbnb raised over $1.5 billion. From big investment companies, the company's value jumped from $1 billion to $10 billion to over $25 billion in just 2 years. This made Airbnb more valuable than most big hotel chains. Even though Airbnb didn't own a single building, think about that. No hotels, no rooms, no buildings. Just a website, a vision, and a community. That's the power of a great idea. But just when everything seemed perfect, disaster struck. Part 4. The crisis that almost killed everything. COVID-19 changes everything. It was March 2020. Airbnb was on top of the world. Over 100 million guests, more than 7 million listings operating. In 190 countries, valued at over $35 billion, preparing to become a public company. Then COVID-19 arrived. Everything collapsed. Borders closed. Planes stopped flying. Hotels and Airbnb sat empty. Countries went into lockdown. People were afraid to travel. Airbnb, a company built on travel and human connection, was suddenly in the middle of a disaster. The numbers were terrifying. Airbnb, in single quotes, S revenue dropped by 80% in just 8 weeks. That's like falling off a mountain. Millions of bookings were canceled. Millions of dollars had to be refunded. Hosts were angry. Guests were scared. Employees were confused. Brian Chesky, the CEO, sad. It felt like watching a car crash in slow motion, and I was driving the car. By May 2020, Airbnb was losing hundreds of millions of dollars every month. They had to make the hardest decision in company history. The painful decision. Brian Chesky and the leadership team made a heartbreaking choice. They had to fire 25% of all employees. That was 1,900 people. These weren't just employees. These were people who had worked there for years. People who loved Airbnb. People who believed in the mission. But the way Airbnb handled the layoffs was different from most companies. Each fired employee got at least 14 weeks of pay they kept there. Laptops to help them find new jobs at Airbnb. Built a special website to help other companies hire them. CEO wrote a public letter explaining everything honestly. They gave extra company shares so employees could still benefit from Airbnb's future. Success. At the end of his letter, Brian Chesky wrote, "This is not just a company. It's a mission filled with people who made it magical." Even in pain, Airbnb chose love over greed. But the crisis taught them something important about what people really needed. The big pivot with travel frozen. Airbnb had to completely rethink their business. They asked, what do people need right now? What can we offer if people aren't traveling far? They listened to their users. People were tired of being stuck at home. But they were also scared of big hotels and crowded places. People wanted safe local getaways, within driving distance homes for long-term stays while working from home private. Clean places away from crowds, small cabins, and countryside cottages. Peaceful places to relax and heal. Airbnb made a massive shift. They added monthly stay options. They created work from anywhere. Homes, they added enhanced cleaning requirements. They made cancellation policies more flexible. They added near-me search features. They launched online experiences like virtual cooking classes and music lessons. Suddenly, Airbnb became more than travel. It became about connection, learning, and healing. This pivot worked. Slowly, bookings started returning. Not for international travel, but for local trips. People in the US, Europe, and Australia began booking trips within driving distance. Instead of hotels, they chose private homes, cleaner, safer, and more personal. By late 2020, Airbnb was starting to recover. Then something incredible happened that shocked the whole world. The amazing comeback in early 2020. Airbnb had canceled their plan to become a public company because of COVID-19. But now, After surviving the storm, they decided to try again. In December 2020. Airbnb went public on the stock market. On the first day, Airbnb shares were priced at $68 each, but they opened at $146 each. The company was instantly worth $100 billion. This made it the biggest stock market debut of the year and one of the biggest in tech history. People couldn't believe it. Just 8 months earlier, Airbnb was almost dying. Now it had become a $100 plus billion comeback story. The story isn't over. Today, Airbnb is bigger than ever. Part 5. The legacy and lessons. What Airbnb means. Today, Airbnb is more than a travel company. It's a movement that changed how the world thinks about travel and exploration home. And belonging, trust between strangers, economic opportunity for regular people, community and connection. The numbers are amazing. Over 1.5 billion guest arrivals, more than 150 million users, 6+ million active listings worldwide, operating in 220 countries and regions. Market value between $70 to $100 billion, but the real success isn't in the numbers. It's in the human stories behind. Every booking is a story that will touch your heart. The human stories. Retired woman in Lisbon hosts guests to feel less lonely. Now she has friends in 40 countries. A single father in Thailand paid for his daughter's education by renting out a treehouse. A cancer survivor in the U.S. turned her home into a peaceful place for travelers and found new meaning in life. A refugee in Berlin became a top-rated host and rebuilt his future through hospitality. These aren't just statistics. They're proof that Airbnb became a lifeline for millions of people. When you sleep in someone's home, you enter their world. When someone trusts you with their home, they enter your heart. This is how strangers became neighbors, and neighbors became family, and the world became smaller and kinder. The three founders learned incredible lessons that changed their lives. What the founders learned. Brian Chesky wasn't a business expert. He was a bodybuilder and designer in college. He had no MBA, no tech background, no CEO experience. But when Airbnb began to grow, he had to become a leader fast. He had to fire people he cared about. He had to sit in meetings where investors laughed at him. He had to make decisions affecting millions of lives. At one point, when the company was drowning in debt, Brian wrote, "I feel like I'm swimming in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight, and I'm getting tired." But he didn't stop. He asked himself, "What do I believe in?" His answer was simple. I believe people are good. I believe travel is magic. I believe the world becomes better when strangers meet and share. That belief made him a leader that money can't buy. Joe Gebbia is always different. Even as a child, he was obsessed with design and creativity. He went to one of the best art schools in America, while other students dreamed of careers in big companies. Joe had a wild idea. What if we used design to change the world? When Airbnb was just an idea, Joe wasn't thinking about money. He was thinking about how to make people feel at home, how to design trust between strangers, how to make ordinary people feel special when they travel. Joe believed that design could solve human problems, and Airbnb became proof of that. Nathan Butchichik was the quiet technical genius. He started coding as a teenager. He once built a software business in high school that made $1,000 per month. Just for fun. At Airbnb, he created the early website, built the booking system, designed the payment structure, and helped expand into China and Asia. He never liked attention, but without him, Airbnb would have collapsed. Nathan shows us a powerful truth. You don't have to be loud to be legendary. You don't have to be famous to change the world. The three friends sacrificed everything for their dream. The price of success while the world saw Airbnb growing. The founders were suffering inside. They slept in airports during early business trips. They ate cheap food because they couldn't afford anything else. They missed birthdays, holidays, and weekends with family. They were constantly afraid that everything might fail. They burned out from the pressure. One night in 2010, Brian stayed in the office until 3 a.m., personally answering emails from angry users. When someone asked him, "Why don't you sleep?" He answered, because this is not just a company. This is my life. They weren't building a business. They were building their souls into a product. And that's what made Airbnb different from other companies. It wasn't about money first. It was about people first. Their families didn't understand it first. In the early years. Their families were confused. Joe's parents said, "You went to art school to rent out airbeds? What are you doing with your life?" Brian's friends laughed. "You let strangers sleep in your house? Are you crazy?" Nathan's relatives thought he should work at Google instead. They faced embarrassment, doubt, financial stress, and emotional confusion. They didn't party. They didn't buy expensive things. They worked and worked and worked. For years, nothing worked. But then everything did, and that's how legends are built. But the most important part of this story is what it means for you, part 6. What this story means for you, this story is about you. This isn't just about 3 guys who built a... This is about you, yes. You reading this right now. You who has an idea, you who wants to start something, you who's been rejected, you who's broke, tired, doubting, scared, you who thinks maybe you're not enough. Airbnb proves you are enough. You don't need perfect skills. You don't need big money. You don't need to wait for the right time. You just need an idea, a heart, a reason to begin, the courage to keep going. Even when no one believes, that's it. If you have that, you can build anything. You can change everything. You can take your version of an air mattress and turn it into something that touches the world. The secret that made Airbnb unstoppable can make you unstoppable to ... The secret of love. What made Airbnb go viral wasn't just their idea. It was their love for people, love for design, love for problem solving, love for travel, love for storytelling, love for every small host and curious guest they cared deeply. And that caring, that emotional fire, burned through rejection, poverty, failure, crisis, and chaos until it became light for millions. That's what made them unstoppable. And if you carry that same love, if you put heart into your dream, no force in the world can stop you either. Here are the 7 life-changing lessons from their story, ... The 7 life-changing lessons. 1. Start small. Very small even, an air mattress can change your life. You don't need a perfect plan. You need to begin. Point 2. Believe in your idea when no one else does. If they laugh, you build. Your belief is more powerful than their doubt. 3. Solve a real problem. Airbnb worked because it helped people who had no place to stay. Find a real problem and solve it. 4. Don't give up after rejection. They were rejected over 1,000 times. You're allowed to fail. You're not allowed to quit. 5. Build trust before profit. People don't buy from companies. They buy from people they trust. Be trustworthy first. Point 6. Be human always during the crisis. Airbnb chose kindness over greed, and the world respected that. Always choose humanity. 7. Success is about meaning, not just money. Money grows, but meaning lasts forever. Build something that matters. If you're watching this and you've ever felt lost or not good enough, remember this ... Your story starts now. Airbnb started with $0 air mattresses. A problem. Couldn't pay rent. A crazy idea, but what made it grow was heart. You have a heart. 2. So don't stop. Build something. Believe. Begin ... And one day, your story will inspire the world just like this one did. You didn't just hear a story. You listened. You felt. You learned. And that's how your life changes. By understanding real stories of real people. With real dreams who never gave up. Don't stop watching now. The most important message is coming next. The most important message from a simple air mattress to a $100 billion empire. This is not just a business story. This is a story about struggle and purpose, trust, and building community, creating a world where you don't have to be rich to feel at home now. This story belongs to you. You can start with nothing and still change everything. You can be rejected 1,000 times and still win. You can sleep on the floor today and still build an empire tomorrow. You don't need money. You don't need a big team. You don't need to be perfect. You only need a small idea, a big heart, the courage to keep going when the world says no. You keep going. When you believe in people, when you build with love, The world will believe in you. Doc, this is your moment. Your story starts now. The three guys who couldn't pay their rent changed how the world travels. What will you change? What's your air mattress idea? What problem will you solve? Your journey begins today. Don't wait. Start small. Dream big. Never give up. The world is waiting for your story. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more powerful stories that will change your mindset and your life. Let's grow together. Let's learn. Let's dream. Remember, you are just one idea away from changing your life forever.